Hello, welcome everyone. Okay, I can see some people joining. Hello. All right, I'll get started. So hello and welcome. My name is Isabel Kent, and this is the fourth IG Live conversation in a new series that I'm doing for Athena Art Foundation. Athena is a new non-profit digital platform promoting engagement with pre-modern art. Its main platform is its website, a hub which presents innovative digital content about exhibitions, podcasts, and other resources. It also creates original content, including this very series of interviews and much more besides. And so make sure to follow Athena Art Foundation on Instagram. And if you'd like to follow me, that is at Izzy_Kent. So I'm so excited for today's guest. I'll be talking with the British artist Olivia Kemp about her brand new solo exhibition Detail at the gallery F&DO in Madrid. In fact, Olivia will actually be joining us from the gallery space, so we'll be having a bit of a tour of the exhibition and be able to see some of the close-ups of her works there and lots of different details, as the name of the show expresses. Now, Olivia is almost exclusively a draftswoman, working primarily in pen and ink, and she creates these monumental, imagined landscapes and interiors that are full of references to the old masters and to paintings. And in fact, the show that we'll be seeing is directly influenced by a residency that she had at the Prado Museum. So I'm really excited to be talking all things Old Masters with Olivia. So without further ado, I'll add her to the live. Let's see. Okay. Hello, hi.
Hey,
How are you doing?
how are you? I'm good, I'm good. I'm in an empty gallery.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, not empty because it's got your amazing artworks in it. Really excited to be looking at them in a bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, so when did you get to Madrid? How long have you been in the space?
I got in on Friday. It absolutely bucketing it down. All of Friday, just absolutely torrential. And then it's been really lovely since. So I've just been tooling around and going to galleries. It's just been really great.
Yeah, no, I was seeing that you were drawing in the Prado and back in your old haunts.
Yeah, it was amazing. I emailed the Prado to be like, hey, is there any chance I can get a pass and a chair? If I don't get a chair, it's just a non-starter. And amazingly, they got back to me and I've managed to spend a couple of days working in there, which was just incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. Now I was seeing your Rubens drawing, which was definitely making me jealous for going to the Prado and in front of the amazing Rubens, and yeah, it
It's
was
incredible.
fabulous.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I expressed in the interview, and we've got lots of people joining, so I'll just say it again and welcome everyone. We are in the gallery space with you, so we're going to be having a tour of the exhibition very soon, which is really exciting. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, your journey as an artist, your development as a draftswoman, and your sort of your skill and your different sort of styles, and also the way in which your art over the years has interacted in many different ways with, you know, the history of art and with the old masters and the European canon, particularly in light of this exhibition. So I kind of wanted to start off sort of asking, where did your sort of interest in the history of art and in the old masters and looking back to the great artists of the past, where did that sort of start and where did it come from, and how has it developed?
Oh, I'm thinking. I was obsessed with Rembrandt from a very young age, and I had like postcards and cutouts of his work like on my walls in my bedroom when I was really young. And my grandmother used to stay in that room, and she'd like refuse to sleep in there unless I took all the faces off the walls. She found it quite haunting. But I used to also we didn't live too far from London, so I would sometimes get the train down to the National Gallery on the weekends and go and just walk around, and it was really. Yeah, really nice. I remember by the time I was in sixth form, I didn't need the guided tour like that we had on a trip, and my teacher just let me go and look at what I wanted to look at, which was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, gorgeous. What was it about Rembrandt then? I'm kind of surprised that you're grandmother was like, I don't want these Rembrandts on the walls, because normally it would be like, yes, young child, be excited about the old masters. So that's really cute that she was like, no, take them down. Why don't you have boy bands on your walls or whatever?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe because, like, obviously when the lights are out, then the Rembrandts can be a little more haunting than they are in the daylight.
That's true. Yeah, they can be a little bit harrowing, and I don't know, the browns and the dark sort of faces looking out from the paint. What was it? Do you remember what it was about Rembrandt that was just like, this is the one for me?
I actually just found them really emotional. Like as a teenager, I was just like, this is really my vibe. I got really like quite emotional, like looking at them, which I guess is like quite an embarrassing thing to say when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
But yeah, good.
Yeah, I think we were very similar teens. I was like breaking down in tears in front of art, in museums,
Yeah.
being like, "Who is this child?" Just like crying, it's mad. But yeah, that's really sweet. But I don't know if I've actually spotted any Rembrandt in your art. Do you have you kind of quoted him at
I
all?
haven't really. No, I haven't
Gone
really.
back to
I
that?
think no, it's not so much like just being like afraid to touch it or anything, because I don't think there's
Mhm.
anything you can really be afraid to, investigate. It just hasn't really come up yet, I guess. And
Yeah.
also, like a lot of his work is not all of it, but quite a bit of it is so straightforward portraiture, which is
Mm.
kind of the one thing I try and avoid a little bit. So find
Right.
ways around it. But yeah,
Yeah. And also, I will say the Prado has a terrible collection of Dutch art, mainly because
yeah,
Spain was like at war with the Netherlands
yeah.
during this period with the Dutch Republic. So during the time of Rembrandt's golden
Zenith.
age, they weren't collecting. I think they have one Rembrandt in the entire museum.
Yeah, and it's a bit of
So
a dodgy one as well. The one they have, it's like, really, Rembrandt?
yeah. Not for me, not for me.
No, not one.
But yeah, so and in terms of your sort of early interests, I guess, when you started your artistic training, were you always geared towards being using pen and ink and paper, or did you kind of think about going down the oil painting route? Because a lot of the artists you're looking at are sort of painters
Mm.
predominantly.
Yeah, I mean, I did my degree in painting, but by the end of it, I wasn't painting at all. I was drawing. I think I just didn't really see drawing as it wasn't, a course heading. It was sculpture or painting or new media. Like there wasn't a drawing. You had to do painting if you wanted to do drawing, and I hadn't really processed in my head that that was a viable option, like just to draw, and also that I shouldn't describe it as just, So yeah, it took a little while. I think I did 2 years of painting and not really enjoying myself, and then finally kind of realizing actually, I really want to draw, and drawing is my medium. And I admire the work of painters, but I don't currently consider myself a painter. Never say never, but right now, definitely no.
Yeah. It's interesting what you just said about like just drawing, labeling it as just drawing, because, drawing is often put in this category of like the preparatory, the thing that you
Yeah,
do,
yeah,
before you go and you work it up into a painting. And actually your drawings are like the absolute antithesis of that. Like your drawings take, days and months to complete and are highly, highly detailed. So yeah, how do
yeah.
you feel about that kind of hierarchy, I guess?
It's so frustrating. I mean, I've literally sat down for interviews for art prizes before, and once I had the woman who was running the prize say, "So you just draw?" And you're like, "Cool. Well, I've lost." like I already know. It's like I stopped even entering things like that because I just got to a point where I'd won the drawing prize 3 times, then I'll never win the overall because they can just give you the drawing prize and things like that. That you're just like, it just isn't taken as seriously. It's like a subcategory, and obviously some people do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here. But it does. You do encounter that quite a lot more than you think you would, and it's quite
Yeah.
like until even in a professional context get people asking, and you don't paint at all, like it's really surprising when they're in a room full of drawings that are clearly quite finished and quite worked on, that they think that you might actually still be working up toward a painting. Quite bad.
Yeah. Oh, Olivia, am I looking very pixelated? Because you're coming across very pixelated, and the sound is slightly cutting in and out.
Oh,
Do
I
you know
don't
if
know,
that's from your end or my end?
you look fine to me.
Okay. You're looking very pixelated to me. I don't know if anyone watching wants to kind of comment to let us know how this is coming across, and if people are receiving you loud and clear. It might just be me. I hope it's just me. But I just wanted to check at the early stages of this. Let's see, any comments? Well, anyway, please comment. We'll keep going, and then if not, I can. Yeah, we can see. Oh yeah, so someone has just commented saying that you're quite pixelated.
Oh,
I don't know
I
if
don't know.
that's
I don't know what I could do
if there's
about that.
anything. In that case, don't worry at all. We can keep going. Some people are saying all good, so I think it just depends who it
Okay.
is. That's fine.
Sorry, I don't. Literally,
Great.
I don't know how I can fix this.
All right. To be honest, you're looking really good now. I think maybe there was just like a little buzz there, but I wanted to.
Okay.
Someone's just asked, "Are you like this?" And you're looking really pixelated. Are you like this in real life? No, this is full detail, full high. Actually, you're coming across high res now, so that's great. Yes, okay. Back to drawings and the hierarchy of the genres. Yeah, so I wanted to ask about your training at the Royal Drawing School and about this residency that you did at the Prado. Kind of how did that come about? What was that training like, and what was the residency like?
So I did the drawing school after I did a drawing master's.
Mm.
Very much sort of theory based. And I got marked down because there were too many works on paper in the final show, which was sort of just, very annoying. And so then I went on to the drawing school.
Madness.
Yeah, yeah. I went on to the drawing school, so I didn't really feel fulfilled by that master's at all. And then it was the absolute opposite. It was all sort of skills based and like, drawing from the model and drawing from life, and it was a bit overwhelming because I didn't actually know that there was that much drawing from the model. I hadn't done much drawing from the model before, and what I had done, I had not enjoyed. And I did tell them that in the interview. I just hadn't quite realized how many of the courses were actually drawing from a model, and that was quite stressful. But yes, it was very intense, but it was really good to do. I think sometimes you kind of have to have that sort of baptism of fire where you have to really go through something that's quite difficult artistically, and you have to argue for your practice a little bit and what's important to you and what things they're saying that are valid, and kind of figure it out. It's not pleasant, but it's actually really important. And I found myself making arguments for the way I work that I hadn't had to make before, that I still use now, and I think that was really helpful.
Yeah, because I guess in those drawing schools it's really quite fast paced often as well, the drawing from the model. And I think your work, well, I mean, what is your process like? Because I've seen the drawings in your studio, and it they take you a hugely long time. So yeah, can you say a little bit about what your process is like, I guess?
What, in the studio or in those classes?
Well, well, we can start off within those classes, because it does feel kind of like the antithesis of maybe what you're doing now, the way that studio works. So how was that for you? Did you
Well,
adapt, or did you just say, no, I'm going to do what I want?
I think my friend described it quite well. He said you would come in full of like, I'm going to make this work this time, and then you'd slowly sink in the chair like throughout the class. And by the end, you're sort of like, oh, she's gone. I would try. I really tried, but it wasn't great for me. I would use charcoal and I'd use pencil and all the materials that were suggested, and I got no pleasure from it. And I had the same thing when I went into the Prado the other day. They said, oh, dry materials only. And I was like, if we're going to have a fight about this, like, I'm not going to get any joy out of doing a pencil drawing in here. I'm just not. Yeah. So I'm not going to do it. Like, if they say you have to do a pencil drawing, I'll just go home and I'll go see another gallery or do something else. It just is like that. Like, if something is your medium and it's what you enjoy doing and it's how you interpret what you're putting down on the page, then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and you have to kind of accept that or make an argument for it or whatever the sort of situation necessitates.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the studio, a lot longer, a lot more free, a lot more time to do those things.
Yeah. It's interesting how sort of closely connected you feel to your medium. I think something that I have often felt is, really a lot of really great art has to be expressed in the medium that it's expressed in. And there's the reason that is chosen. and this is the same for people, sort of poets and writers who are using words as their medium in different forms. And you know, for you as someone who uses pen and ink, and it's sort of so interesting to hear that that's really how you feel about it. You know, that you have to use pen. I mean, even sort of pencil and other drawing mediums that, you know, as the layperson, as a sort of non-practitioner, I would think that there's something comparable there. But for you, it's just not. It's
so different. I don't commit to what I'm doing in the same way if I use a medium that I can rub out, and I can't get the black that I'm used to, so I just get really frustrated and I'm like making a mess, and it's just not the same. And I keep thinking, oh, I will get bored of drawing like this or drawing with this, because that's what I've always been told in art school, like you can't just pick one thing. Or even though paint is one thing, apparently that's fine, but pen is two. Whatever. I'm always told that. But every time I put the pen on the fresh piece of paper, it's, oh, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted. It's exciting. And I think, you know, as long as that's still the case, then you keep going with that medium.
Yeah. And in terms of this sort of planning or inability to change your mind, I think, which you've talked about pen giving you, how do you plan your works? Because they are so vast. And I think when I've seen pictures of your sort of half-finished ones, it doesn't look like you've got sort of pencil sketching. Do you do a sketch beforehand, or do you just sort of hold it in your mind and work out? I mean, how do they manifest? How does it come about?
Well, I don't sketch it in pencil at all. I do sketch in pen, but only the bit, it's literally the bit I'm drawing. So I don't know if that really counts, because I might, like, I'll draw out something, be like, right, I'm going in. And then if I change my mind, it sort of looks like I've sketched something out, but really it's just the beginning of the drawing itself. It's not going to change. So I don't know if what I would class that as. It's just the underdrawing of the drawing.
Yeah.
But I forgot what you asked me.
Yeah, and you don't do like a preparatory sketch or anything like that. Reference.
No, I really don't have an idea in my head, like what I'm doing. I just have like a phrase or something. So like, I did a drawing that was a forest of tree houses, and that was literally the phrase I had in my head. I didn't have a mental image. There's nothing there. It's just like, well, that would be nice, and give it a go, I guess.
And it just sort of builds really organically. I mean, it's such a sort of amazing thing to conceptualize, the way that your drawings just sort of build out, and there's so much, just so much detail, and it feels like with your senses series, which I think we're going to be talking about, because you have some of them there, your senses series, it's full of so many kind of details that I think for me as an art historian, I'm like, is that a little bit of planned symbolism there? And you know, and some of them totally are, right? But also there's this organic, unplanned nature to your drawings. Which is
there's lots of symbolism, but it's not planned. It comes in, like, I'll be sort of sitting there like, right, I need to put something in this gap. Like, what can I put in this gap? And some days you're just spending the day like Googling pictures of like bread rolls and bowls and certain plants and things. And then other days you're like, you know, you look at some postcards from the Prado or wherever you're referencing, you're like, oh, it'd be cool to include something like that, because that'd be a great reference. So it's sort of varied, but it's much more about sort of space filling, because you haven't thought this through, rather than actual planning.
Yeah. And this, so the Richard Ford residency that you went on, can you talk a little bit about that, and sort of what was that residency, and how long were you in the Prado, and what was that whole experience like of going there and drawing there?
So I did it in 2015, a little while ago now. But it's basically a grant that you're given to cover your expenses to go to the Prado and spend as much time as you can with that money, basically drawing from the collection. And you just get a pass, and you can go in anytime you want, and just they give you a chair, and you just sit and you can draw from whatever painting you want to draw from. Which is just mad. You start to treat the collection like it's just like, you know, your pantry. You sort of wander in, and you're like, today. It's really odd. I was walking around with my husband today, and I'm looking at things like, I chose to draw that, but I don't think I had any, like, that felt like it that day, you know. And now that drawing has been sat on my studio wall for like 6 years, just because of that sort of weird whim that one day. But I was there for 2 months. And I made quite a lot of drawings, but also like 2 or 3 maybe really big, like really worked up ones of 3 of the large pieces from there, which I really enjoyed doing. it's nice to kind of really get into something. Otherwise, I think I would have missed it if I was 2 months and nothing sort of substantial.
Yeah. And I think what I don't know if sort of people watching this will realize, it's really unusual to be able to draw in the Prado. Like, I have visited the Prado, I mean, God knows how many times, right? It's one of my favorite museums in the world, and it's amazing. And I don't know that I ever see anyone drawing in there, because for the most part you're not really allowed to, and there aren't seats, and there aren't there aren't benches in the Prado. There's a lot about the Prado that is very anti-visitor, you know.
Yeah, it's not very
So
encouraging. Yeah,
so,
like
so
if
sort
you
of
want to
hearing
draw,
the
if you
fact,
want to draw in the Prado without a pass or anything like that, you'd have to bring like a handheld sketchbook and stand.
yeah,
And that's it. That's basically all they'll accommodate unless you have a pass or something like that. So it's quite difficult to draw it from the collection. And it's actually the case for quite a few of the European museums, not just the Prado, but the Prado is particularly, I think post-COVID it's even worse because they don't have as many benches either. Those have gone, stop people congregating. And even when I was going in this week, it was pick a painting that's in a big airy space so that you're not, causing a risk to other people. So it's definitely worse than rather than better at the moment. But yeah, it's really difficult to draw in the Prado, and they have a specific like copias program where you'd have to sort of filter through that in a collection. And when I was there, it was just me and the girl that I was with who were drawing in the Prado. So you do attract a lot of attention, which is quite stressful because the tour guides outside who aren't affiliated with the Prado figure out where you are in the gallery. And if you're working on the same thing for weeks on end, they know where you are. So they bring, like 100 Japanese tourists or American tourists or whoever they've got, and they come and stand behind you and they go, "This girl is drawing from the Rubens." And suddenly you're inundated. So yeah, I did a lot of storming out of rooms. Didn't say anything, just grab all my things and walk off when it got a bit much.
Oh man. Yeah, that's funny that you sort of turned into a work of art yourself. There's something kind of postmodern about that. The artist drawing from the artwork, then being the one being photographed. There's something kind of
Very
bizarre.
odd. I always think I'm
Yeah,
not what you came here for. I'm not why you bought a ticket. Like, why are you like why are you annoying me right now? Like touching the paper and getting involved. Very strange.
And so the big series that I think kind of came out of the Prado Residency is your Five Senses series. And so that's based on the Rubens, right? The Rubens and Bruegel series. So could you sort of say a bit more, like, why was it those pictures that you were so drawn towards? Because I mean, the Prado has I mean, surely tens of thousands of paintings and so many masterpieces. What kind of drew you towards that series?
I mean, drawing from the Rubens and Bruegel senses was really just drawn out of actual frustration and not being able to draw them properly when I was there, because they're hung on the eye line. So they're quite high up the wall, and they're not very big. They're sort of about this deep and like this sort of, you can't tell, like this wide. And they're really difficult. If you're given a tiny chair, there we go. Yeah. If you're given a tiny little, like it's like a fisherman's chair they give you to sit and draw on, or I got back in the day. And so you're so low down, you can't see them. And if you stand up, your arm starts to ache very quickly if you've got a drawing board. So it was really like, I really wanted to draw them because they're amazing, but I couldn't because it was just too difficult to figure out how to draw them. So they were sort of like, they were kind of haunting me for a few years, and I really thought about them a lot. And that's kind of where I kind of got the idea to do like my interpretation of them. And it was sort of like unfinished business to kind of reinterpret them and get to draw them, but in my own way.
So this was something that you came back to then after the residency. These were a couple of years later, is that?
Yeah, it took me quite a few years to sort of process how I wanted to use the Prado residency, because the drawings I made in the Prado in 2015 were nothing like the studio work I was doing, which was all landscape based. And the Prado doesn't have a lot of landscapes at all. And it sort of forced me, I didn't know that going into it. So it forced me to think about what else it is about drawing or even looking at paintings that I find interesting. Is I had to consider things like detail and texture and like how the use of space, or what it is that's interesting. Like, is it a weird perspective, or is it like that the picture's really packed, and things like that, and draw those paintings. So it took me a long time to figure out how to use those things in my work, because that's not where my work was at all when I got back to studio.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting seeing your census series in contrast to these large landscapes, which I think were your kind of early exhibition, sort of exhibited works with these kind of surreal, strange landscapes. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, I mean, the Prado paintings, there's a similar thread, I mean, in terms of the hyper detail and the closeness and attention. But there's also, they sort of feel maybe more personal, or, you know, the fact that these are kind of tactile objects, for example, In Touch, right? It's full of all the
mm,
sort of tactile, close, really closely observed objects. And it's really zooming in as opposed to the landscape, which just feels so expansive.
mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot more of the macro, which I did try to get into the sort of foregrounds of the big pieces, but
Yeah.
it's always been like sort of I really like to get into that, like get very creative with it, the things you include.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I still use the landscapes in the drawings, because I think a lot about the way that so many old master paintings have these incredible, quite strange landscape backgrounds, and how
Mm.
to sort of bring them into the work as well. So it's had been something I've been thinking about. I just hadn't quite processed how to bring it all together.
Yeah. No, they're such spectacular drawings. I know we're getting so many comments from people saying how much they love these drawings, and they really are. You know, you could look at them for hours, and I don't know. I wish that I was in the exhibition to just like zoom in and be able to look at these works because they feel so sort of so detailed and so kind of satisfying. I think being able to see all of these details and how laborious they were. I'm sure. And another thing I was wondering in the sort of looking at the artists that you've drawn on from the Prado, you know, looking at Velasquez and El Greco and Rubens, there's so much Rubens in there. And who else? Goya comes up, you know, and Murillo. All these painters are kind of very painterly painters. You know, they're
Mm,
painters who, I mean, Velasquez is often sort of called the painter's painter. Rubens is so sort of oil painterly in the way that he does his
yeah,
sketches and his brushwork, and it's all very visible and sort of colore if we're going for the Italian school, as opposed to disegno, as opposed to drawing, right? And
yeah.
how have you sort of felt, I suppose, transposing that into drawing? Because you seem to be drawn towards this sort of hyper painterliness, and then
Yeah.
sort of transferring it.
I used to draw in the National Gallery a lot before I ever went to the Prado, and I always found it interesting trying to draw the textures of paint because I think it
Mm.
sort of challenges you to create new marks with what you're doing. Um, so I kind of, and I'd sort of find a mark that I'd use to describe paint in some way, and then have to use, and then I think, oh, I'll use that mark to describe trees in this drawing, and it's sort of quite an educational thing because something that in a drawing, like if you were drawing a thumb, for example, you just put, you put a line around it, but paint, you can describe a thumb with sort of like three blobs of paint, and you just think, well, how on earth do I draw that, and it's still like a thumb, but also look like three blobs of paint? It's
Mm.
very different. So I think it's quite a good challenge to sort of force yourself to draw things that aren't, that are more complicated, that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily the graphic. If I was just drawing drawings, then I'd have to draw the marks the way they put them down. Whereas if I draw paintings, I have to come up with my own marks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, you're not copying. You know,
Mm.
not making an exact sort of replica of something. It's more like the old-fashioned type of copying, the sort of the artistic learning journey that you know, with artistic training throughout history, that people would sit in front of artworks and sort of transpose them into their own
Yeah.
vernacular style, you know, into their own language. Yeah, it's really brilliant and very evocative. Olivia, are you ready to show us some of the artwork? I'm thinking that
Ready?
maybe we could have a bit of a tour.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Go left to right.
Sure, sure.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this around. Ooh, have a little bit. Okay.
Oh, we'll see if this works. Hopefully it'll work with the pixelating, because for me at least it's a little bit blurred. Oh, for me it's Okay. For me, it's frozen right now, but let's bear with it and see if this resolves. And if not, it was an experiment and it was great. Um, oh, it's very blurry. Okay. Oh, that was coming into focus.
Don't
Okay,
know if
so
that's
this
better.
is this is the jawbone, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it's a sheep's jaw.
Wow. And what where how did this come about? How did this work come about?
Oh, I found an entire sheep carcass. I think I was out on a residency in Scotland, but I just brought home the skull and the jawbone because I thought the rest of it would be little bit too much on the train. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
think
did
like hauling a sheep's carcass through through St Pancras
Houston.
Station might be a bit much.
Yeah, a bit too much. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's just I just sort of quite like these kind of memento mori style, like quite dark when you're sort of looking at things and it's sort of the rotting and the broken and those sorts of elements.
Mm.
I think are more interesting than just the aesthetically pleasing. Like the uglier things can be more beautiful, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I
So I
I totally agree. It reminds me of do you know that Goya still life of meat and the there's the sheep's I think I'm pretty sure
yeah,
it's the sheep sort of flayed and just the meat and the bone.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then I did
Okay,
a
so this
quite a
is this is
few.
a little sorry, go ahead. This is a little bit pixelated for me, but hopefully people can see it.
I have no idea. I can
Fingers
see it. I
crossed.
don't know if
Oh,
anyone
okay,
else can see
okay.
it.
I can see it a little bit better now. So tell us, what are we looking at?
This is from a barrel of rotten apples on a farm on Guernsey that I think that I was helping them collect them for like a cider festival or something. But I've been doing a series of like compost heaps, like barrels of all the ones that had fallen from the tree and weren't any good. So it's just sort of interesting having a look through them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little worm. Don't know if
Yeah.
you can see
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is quite pixelated. But if
it.
anyone, I mean, I think it's still, it's still good for me. I mean, it's still really great seeing the shape of the work, and actually, it's come into more focus now. It's just going in and out of focus, so I think we can just keep going. And everyone watching follows you already, so you'll be able to see all of these works on the Instagram feed as well. Um, okay, this is currently super pixelated. Let's see.
Yeah. I think it's just when you move the phone, it gets a bit upset. It
Yeah.
takes it a minute. But that's just one of the other compost heap drawings of like flowers and plants.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the way that they're hung on these kind of metal bars. Is that what
Yeah.
it is? It looks really
So
cool.
you've
It's
got
very elegant.
a structure system you can move the artwork around pieces, which is really cool.
Hmm.
Sure, this one will read
Oh, I
even if it's
love this one. I
pixelated.
know which one this is. This is the three magpies.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
This one is called Three for a Girl, and it's referencing the Juan Sanchez Cotan in the Prado Museum, and also these drawings of crows by Andrew Wyeth, because he'd draw a lot of
Okay.
hung up birds. But I
Yeah.
did see these birds on a wall at my friend's farm. It just reminded me of that piece of the Prado with the
Oh, okay. Yes. Sorry, Olivia. Your sound just cut out then for me. So I didn't quite hear what you said after mentioning that it was referencing Sanchez Cotin. I slightly lost what you were
That's okay.
saying.
I'll put you down for a second.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can. Well, I can certainly hear you better, and you're pixelated, but it'll all come back, so it's all fine. Um, But yeah, the three. I actually think the three magpies is possibly my favorite of your drawings. There's something so kind of graphic and immediate about it, and it's so beautiful, but also with, as you say, with the with the death. I mean, with these three
Mm.
beautiful dead birds hanging up, and referencing the Sanchez Cotin, which is one of my favorite paintings, and yeah, really
I
fabulous.
saw on the label today, it says it was like one of the first Spanish still lifes ever painted or something like that, which is mad. It's like
Yeah,
1602 or something. Thinking, gosh, it took a while.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's pretty early for Spain, but it sort of kick-started this whole tradition of still life, because then you've got people like Zurbrand doing his still lives that have a lot of religious undercurrent in them,
Mm.
and and then others. Valdes Leal's fabulous, huge memento mori. I don't know. Have you ever visited Seville?
I haven't, no.
Okay. Well, if you like memento mori, Valdes Leal, you need to go to the Hospital de la Caridad. There are these two huge Valdes Leals, huge memento mori, and they are the most kind of graphic and grim, but also just fabulous still lives ever. So I'm sure you'd really like them.
Oh, exciting. I like that. That sounds good.
Yeah. Next trip, or you just go on a train. Like it'll just quite a long train journey to get from Seville to
Quite,
Madrid,
quite well.
Madrid to Seville. But next time.
Next time.
Yeah, definitely recommend. Yeah, but I really like, is your works. The Three for a Girl, the one of Three Magpies, feels very different from a lot of your other works, where every detail is filled in. Every little bit
Mm.
of the paper is filled. Whereas the Magpie feels very sort of expansive. I don't know, how did that feel for you, having that difference?
Well, I do sometimes do these sort of drawings where they're just in the middle of a white page, and I've done that with a few drawings of animals and still
Mm.
life as well. But that particular one, I was working on something really big at the time. I think I was just having like a funny week with it, and I just needed to like achieve a thing really badly. And
Yeah.
I use these pens for that one that are slightly different. They have all the same qualities, sort of light fast and all those sorts of things, but they are wetter, so you can
Mm-hmm.
draw a bit quicker. And I usually use them for drawing plein air, which I haven't been doing a lot of recently, but I really just enjoyed like getting sort of feather textures with it because it has this kind of wetness to it, where if you know the pen really well, then you know how long you have for different amounts of smudge. It's like it just becomes this sort of inbuilt thing that like, oh, if I do it straight away, it's too much smudge, and if I leave it like another half second, then I get just the right like length on
Yeah.
it, kind of thing. But yeah, I just really enjoyed making it. It was very satisfying,
Yeah.
and I just
So
like this
how long
real
did
feeling.
sorry, I was just going to ask, how long did a work like that take you in comparison to your to your huge ones from the census series? What's your kind of working time?
Like a year ago, so I'm not entirely sure. And I went
Okay,
on.
so it's still not that quick.
It feels quick. I feel like it was quick. Yeah, but it was very satisfying. I mean, I think I was working on a piece that was taking 6 months, so to have that little break and do that was very like, okay, I have achieved
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Do you often have like a lot on the go at the same time?
No, not really.
Okay.
I usually I have more so, like during COVID, just to sort of have lots of different projects going because I was sort of stuck at home and you
Mm.
need a lot of different things to occupy you. But usually in studio it's like one thing, maybe two.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, just sort of needing a break, needing to sort of refresh. When you went back to the old painting, did it feel fresher because you're just on the magpies?
Yes, I think I was panicking about my deadlines as well. So I was just sort of
Mm.
like, and I knew I was going to make that drawing. I had it in my head, and I just was satisfied to have it done and be like, okay, like we can move on. Like
On to the next
that's
one.
done.
Yeah.
Good. I'm happy.
Yeah. No, I really love it. Do you think you'll do more kind of within that style then, with the blank white?
Um, yes, I mean, there's two pieces in the window in the show as well that are one
Mm.
piece, I mean, of two birds that are also on white, which it's not a new thing for me. I don't really think about it too much. I think whether I
Mm.
if it because if it's that sort of drawing, then it just makes sense, and if it's not that sort of drawing, then and it's the thought that really fills the page, then. yeah, they go one way or another. I don't really sort of think of it as like a device.
Mm. Yeah. No, yeah, it's really beautiful, really gorgeous. I wish I could see it in person. But yeah, your Instagram pictures will have to do because I think the blurriness didn't quite yeah, it was made it a little bit tricky. But it's great. Also, what is great is just to see the scale of them. I think what we don't get
Mm.
with with Instagram, and I think a lot of people have only had the opportunity to see your art through, through Instagram, is just the sheer scale and, how detailed and, how amazing they are. But,
Yeah,
and
I
your
find
senses,
I have to post pictures with me in them for scale,
yeah,
or a hand or something like that, just to sort of scale things.
yeah. Well, that is the good thing, is you often have your dog, which I am very in love with. You've often got the little dog, your dog in the pictures with you to scale
Yeah,
up.
if
Um,
I'm feeling camera shy, just send Bramble. It works. It was fine.
yeah. And so what's next for you after this exhibition? What's coming up now? Or what artworks do you have in the works?
So I've just finished a big piece in studio, which I'm putting aside now until I think March, and I should be
Mhm.
showing in London. So I've got another big piece I'm about to start, which is sort of loosely based on like the Primavera and Rubens' muses and ideas of
Mm.
like the three graces and the muses and that sort of typical depiction of like women in a garden and they're always sort of prancing and they're usually barely clothed, but
Yeah.
I've got this amazing selection of women who've like volunteered through Instagram to model for this drawing, all sorts of different people, and so I'm really excited to kind of reinterpret that. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's going to be fun. I'm really excited.
That
As
sounds
again,
that
I don't
sounds
really have a
great.
plan, but yeah, just everyone will be in a garden and everyone will be clothed. Yeah, and
So
I'm just sort of.
so all the drawing from the nude at the drawing school, you're like, I'm never doing a nude again. This is too much. I
No,
want people to
I don't
wear
think so.
clothes. Stop. Yeah.
I think it's when it's women. I think I just feel at the moment, I feel like looking at so much that's for the male gaze, like still even, in museums and galleries, there's so much of it is feels like it's for men. And I feel like it'd be quite fun to take the poses from the Rubens nymphs and from the Primavera and things like that, but give the women a bit more power and a bit more agency and a bit more character. They're not just all blonde and white and wearing something diaphanous, and just have a bit of fun with it and make it kind of but use those classical poses that you see, so you kind of see something in it that has that recognizability to it.
Yeah. God, it sounds great. Particularly as you've just been in the Prado, which is the absolute heartland of the naked Venus. So
Yeah,
yeah, take back some agency for these women, for God's sake.
exactly.
Yeah.
Give them a bit of character.
Yeah. And you said you found all your models through Instagram, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
It
what
was
kind
quite
of
interesting
how does
because
that
I
come
sort of
about? Like what draws you towards, I don't know, different people, different figures?
well, I put out a call out just asking if anyone was interested, and then
Mm.
I sort of went through the responses, and I guess if you have several, basically I didn't want anyone that looked like me because I can just put me in it if I feel like there's no one that looks like me, because that's that was already
Yeah.
like done, and I have two sisters, so that's fine.
Sorted.
But I just was curious to see what would come back and who would be interested. And I kind of like, worked through like, oh, if someone got in touch first, and then there was a couple people after them with a similar sort of look, then the person who got in touch first, because I'm not a modeling agency. We're not picking people based on
Yeah.
anything like, I don't know, anything like that. So it's just sort of, and then I reached out to some people as well that I saw online who I didn't have people like them in my drawing, and I wanted people like them in my drawing. And I, amazing response, like really, I was really shocked. I've never reached out to strangers on the internet before. So
Yeah.
it was really lovely to get like really positive responses. And yeah, I'm hoping it will all come together. But I've just sent out all the information to the people who volunteered. So I'm just like waiting to see what
Yeah.
photos I get back and like how I can use them.
Fantastic. God, it sounds really exciting. And actually, your five senses. Am I right in thinking that your five senses series from that's in this show was one of the first times that you've kind of included figures and portraits in your
Yeah.
large scale? Is that right?
Yeah. I very much use that show as a sort of vehicle to um to put people into the work, but within a context I was comfortable with, that I understood, where the poses were sort of almost pre-decided because I knew where they were going and what was happening. And I guess I just been a sort of landscape person for so long that even though I was drawing figures in the gallery all the time, I just sort of thought, oh, it's not my thing. I don't touch that. That's very like high art or something. And kind of breaking that down and actually just being really like honest about what I'm doing and say it's a pen drawing, so I'm going to draw you, but if it doesn't look like you but it's a nice drawing, I'm keeping it. It's not about you. Like, I'm really sorry, but it's a pen drawing. So what do you want me to do? I'm not here for, like profound likeness or something that really sees into someone's soul. That's not what it is. These are characters. It's a facet of you if you're lucky. Otherwise it doesn't really look like you, and I'm sorry.
I love this. I love how you're like, I'm just going to use pen. I don't want to use pencil. Like, this is what I'm doing. And similarly, like with portraits, you're very, I don't know, it feels like you're very sort of honest with your art. You're like, this is what I want to be doing. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look like you. This isn't for you. Yeah.
But I think I did 6 years in art school, and all of the like filling folders and folders of theory and writing and why you're doing this and what it means and what other people should see in it. And I think I'm at a point now where I'm just not going to tell anyone what to think or feel or what it should be. Like, if you enjoy it, then that's amazing, and if it's not for you, then that's great too. But I'm not going to put like a massive like essay on the wall that you have to read to understand the work. That's just not where I'm at. Like, I'm at being honest. I'm at the point of saying, like, look, I sit around and eat a lot of biscuits. Like, I stare out the window a lot. I play with the dog. And then on good days, it's amazing, like absolutely amazing. I don't need music. I don't need films. I don't need anything. I'm loving what I'm doing. And on bad days, I have, the equivalent of like RuPaul's Drag Race or something on the television while I'm working, because it's a brick day or it's a grass day, or,
having RuPaul's Drag Race on the TV in the background is not a bad day. Like, that automatically makes any day a good day. Come on, let's be honest.
I think that's the point, isn't it? It's like, well, if it's not working, make it better. Like, put something else into the situation, And like, you don't need to lie. You don't need to say, oh, I listen to Mozart and I'm always in the zone,
It's just suffused in the paper. No, I think it's really fab being so, being so honest, and your drawings are so brilliant and have clearly really sort of captivated this, huge following as well. I mean, how has that been, being an artist who's most known, I suppose, through Instagram? Like, how do you feel about this, about sort of the platform that we're on right now, and how that has kind of influenced your art? Or has it influenced your art, or are you just doing whatever you want, which it kind of sounds like is your vibe? So that's great.
I don't think it's influenced the art itself, because it doesn't actually translate that well on Instagram, because it's very big and very detailed, and you can never get a photo of the whole thing. I think it just changes the way I photograph the art, but not the art itself. Yeah, it's kind of a funny one, because I set up my Instagram on my master's program because we needed a visual diary, and I had an account, I'd never used it, and I thought, great, I'll just put photos on there and that's a visual diary, because it needed to be like a blog link or something. And I just got really into the habit of it, but I never thought it was like it would be the thing that it is now, which is where a lot of people find the work and then go onto the gallery website or my website or something else. I guess I try not to think about it too much, really, because I don't think it's a very healthy platform a lot of the time. It's a very like, it's literally called a like, and that can be quite, how many likes you get can be very, I mean, I've turned them off on all of my pictures because I don't actually want to know, I actually just want to put the work up and be like, oh, this friend of mine liked it, that's nice, rather than actually looking at numbers and things like that. I think I've always been quite honest about Instagram, because I've been asked to do like talks and things at art schools about how to, have a great Instagram account as an artist and things. And I think I would feel like a liar, because ultimately, like, I have weird months where I just lose hundreds of followers because the algorithm isn't showing my work to anybody, and you can see it, it says 2 people saw this or something. And then months when it blows up again, and that's just how it is. And I think you can't control that, and you can't teach that. And I think being honest about that is really important. Like, don't tell people the idea that you can make it on Instagram. I think it's a really messy place. It's a great place, but it's messy.
No, it's really interesting hearing you say that. And I mean, I certainly feel the same way, about it and about this platform of, you always just put out what you want. I think as soon as it becomes, or as soon as it feels like a job, it stops being kind of enjoyable. As soon as it feels like, okay, now you have to do another post, or whatever it might be. But it just being this kind of visual diary, or just going around and being like a nice companion to go around a museum with, and there being people on the other end who are like commenting and saying, oh yeah, like, have you seen this artwork, or make sure you check out that, and like that's really nice and pleasant. But I think as soon as it starts to like take hold, that's when you got to call it quits.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think mine's technically quite uncool because I have like thousands of posts, and it's cooler to have like less posts and more followers, but I don't want to delete them because I love scrolling through and being like, oh, what were you doing 4 years ago? Or like, having a little look at everything I posted at a certain time period. I find it really interesting. Like I still use it as a visual diary. So I feel like that's the only reason why I still have one.
Yeah. No, I love it, and it's been a great medium, to find wonderful artists, coming across your art and seeing the ways in which you're sort of drawing on all the old masters and all the painters that I hold very dear to my heart, and seeing them afresh. It's such an exciting thing. So thank you very much for doing that and for having this platform. But yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. And on that note, Olivia, I got to say we've gone quite a lot over time. I think when we were talking about this, we were like, oh yeah, we'll chat for about like half an hour, 40 minutes, like 50 minutes later. But there's like so much to talk about. So I'm going to say thank you so much. We're getting loads of hearts coming in. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Just before I let you go, I'm just going to say to everyone who's watching, this is done in collaboration with Athena Art Foundation, which is a new non-profit digital platform to educate people around the history of art and sort of to make it more exciting and engaging. And so make sure and go follow Athena Art Foundation. If you want more from me, you can follow at Izzy_Kent. And yeah, of course, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, just leave us on. Thank you so much, Olivia, for all your time. Congratulations on this fabulous exhibition. Really wonderful. And it's been so great to see the images, and thank you for the tour, even if it didn't quite work out the way we'd hoped, but it was fab.
Worth a try.
Yeah, exactly. Have a great time the rest of your time in Madrid, and yeah, hopefully see you soon. See you soon in London.
Absolutely.
All the best. Thanking everyone for watching.
Bye.
Bye.